Have you ever wondered who the true villains of Middle-earth really are? Most people immediately think of Sauron. But what if I told you that Sauron wasn't the first Dark Lord? He wasn't even the most powerful evil being to ever exist. Before Sauron forged the One Ring, before the Witch King spread fear across kingdoms, before dragons burned cities and Balrogs awakened beneath the mountains, there was a darkness so ancient that it almost destroyed the entire world. And every major villain that came later was, in one way or another, connected to that original evil. Today, we're uncovering the complete story of the greatest villains in Middle-earth. Who they were, where they came from, what made them so dangerous, and who was truly the most terrifying enemy Tolkien ever created. By the end of this video, you'll see Middle-earth very differently. Let's begin. When the world was still being created, before elves, men, or even the sun existed, there were powerful spiritual beings known as the Ainur. Among the greatest of them was one called Melkor. Melkor wasn't born evil. He was the strongest and most gifted of all the Ainur. But with that power came pride. He wanted to create life of his own instead of following the design of Eru Ilúvatar, the creator of everything. When he realized only Eru possessed the flame imperishable, the power to create true life, his desire turned into jealousy. That jealousy became hatred, and hatred became the first evil in existence. Melkor entered the world and spent ages corrupting everything beautiful. Mountains were broken, oceans were reshaped, creatures were twisted into monsters. Even many spirits fell under his influence. Eventually, Melkor became known as Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Every evil that appeared afterward can ultimately be traced back to him. One of the spirits who admired Morgoth more than anyone else was Sauron. Long before he became the Dark Lord, Sauron was a Maya. Unlike Morgoth, Sauron didn't crave destruction for its own sake. He believed the world needed perfect order. He wanted absolute control. At first, he thought serving Morgoth was the fastest way to achieve that goal. But over time, he became just as cruel as his master. After Morgoth's defeat, Sauron refused to abandon his ambition. Instead, he declared himself the new Dark Lord. Using deception rather than brute force, he disguised himself as Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. He gained the trust of the elven smiths and secretly guided them in crafting the Rings of Power. Then, deep within Mount Doom, he forged the One Ring, a single ring designed to dominate all the others. It was one of the greatest acts of manipulation in Middle-earth's history. Even after losing the ring, Sauron never stopped trying to reclaim it. His shadow lasted thousands of years. But Sauron didn't fight alone. Among his deadliest servants stood the Nobody knows his true name. He was once a powerful human king. Then Sauron gave him one of the 9 rings. The ring granted him incredible power and unnaturally long life, but it also consumed him completely. Eventually, he became one of the Nazgûl, the Ringwraiths. The Witch King was the strongest among them. He destroyed kingdoms, led massive armies, spread fear wherever he appeared. His enemies believed no living man could kill him. That prophecy made him seem unstoppable. Until the Battle of Pelennor Fields proved that arrogance can become a villain's greatest weakness. Few creatures inspired more fear than the Balrogs. Like Sauron, they were originally Maya spirits. But during the earliest days of the world, Morgoth corrupted them. They transformed into beings of shadow and living fire. Each Balrog possessed enormous strength. Entire armies feared facing even one. Most of them disappeared after Morgoth's downfall, but one survived, hidden beneath the misty mountains for thousands of years. When the dwarves dug too deeply in search of Mithril, they awakened the creature later known as Durin's Bane. His appearance changed the fate of Khazad-dûm forever. Even Gandalf had to sacrifice himself to stop it. That alone shows how terrifying a single Balrog truly was. Another terrifying villain wasn't a Dark Lord or a fallen spirit. It was a dragon. Smaug. Smaug. Unlike many servants of Morgoth or Sauron, Smaug acted mainly for his own greed. He attacked the Lonely Mountain, destroyed Dale, and claimed the vast treasure of Erebor. His enormous size, intelligence, and fiery breath made him nearly unstoppable. But perhaps his greatest weapon wasn't fire. It was fear. Entire kingdoms abandoned hope simply because Smaug existed. Sometimes one dragon was enough to change history. Not every villain began with evil intentions. Saruman is one of the greatest examples. Originally, he was sent to Middle-earth to oppose Sauron. He was wise, respected, and leader of the Istari. But power slowly corrupted him. He became obsessed with the One Ring. Instead of destroying Sauron, he dreamed of replacing him. He built armies of Uruk-hai, cut down ancient forests, betrayed old friends, and nearly plunged Middle-earth into disaster. Saruman reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous villains are those who believe they're making the right choices. There are many more dark forces across Tolkien's world. Shelob, the giant spider descended from Ungoliant. The countless orc chieftains who spread destruction. The trolls, dragons, and corrupted creatures that served darkness across different ages. But despite all of them, one question remains. Who was the greatest villain? Was it the terrifying Sauron, the unstoppable Witch King, the fiery Balrog, or the dragon Smaug? The answer is Morgoth. Without Morgoth, there would have been no Sauron. No Balrogs, no corrupted orcs, no centuries of darkness. He was the source from which nearly every great evil in Middle-earth flowed. His influence continued long after his defeat. Even during the War of the Ring, the shadow of Morgoth could still be felt in the ambitions, monsters, and corruption left behind. That is what makes Tolkien's villains so unforgettable. They're not simply monsters to defeat. Each one represents a different face of corruption. Pride, greed, fear, control, power, and the choices that slowly turn even the greatest beings into servants of darkness. So here's the question. Which Middle-earth villain do you think was the most dangerous, and why? Tell me your answer in the comments. And if you enjoy deep dives into Tolkien's lore, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and join us for the next journey into the world of Middle-earth.